Good afternoon for those of you on the East Coast. Good morning for those of you on the West and Central time zones. Those who are following from Israel and Europe, we want to wish you a good evening. Today, we, the participants here at FIDF, are blessed to have someone who's been a friend, a mentor, and a guide to us over many, many years. And that is General Nitzan Nuriel. General Nuriel, as well as having a very storied military career, for decades now has been working together with the American forces, the American military, in a number of defensive and offensive plans that involve the intelligence, that involve all dimensions of the military, Navy, air, the ground forces. He's someone who's respected and revered by American forces. To us, in the cities throughout the length and breadth of America over the years, we've had him as a guest at parlor meetings, at dinners, at one-on-one meetings. You'll have the chance, for those who are hearing him for the first time, to hear from a man who's incredibly analytical, incredibly thoughtful, and can contextualize what is happening. General Nuriel, thank you for making the time. Thank you for educating and for opening up our eyes to understand what's happening in the various, so to speak, arenas of Iran and its 6 proxies as we're in the midst of a very difficult war.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Let's start with the largest picture. I'm going to say that Israel are dealing with 9 fronts at the same time. By mistake, many people are talking about 6 or 7 fronts, and I'm going to mention 9 different fronts which force us, meaning the security forces, to be, generally speaking, all over. We have Lebanon, we have Syria, we have Iraq, Iran, Yemen, Gaza Strip, and we have Judah and Samaria. We have the border between Israel and Jordan, which is a bit new. We used to have very quiet borders along the Israeli-Jordanian common border. And in the last few months, it's become a place which we need to invest forces and actions. And we unfortunately have the problems, the terror issues inside the state of Israel. So all in all, it's 9 different areas which we need to deal with. And for the security agencies, it is a huge challenge. And by mistake, our enemies believe that we are not strong enough to deal with all those at the same time. And right now, we are dealing with a ground maneuver in Gaza. We do have those challenges up in the north, and we are maneuvering inside Judah and Samaria in order to reduce the risks from those areas toward the state of Israel. Going from the big picture into some, let's say, 3 or 4 challenges we are facing, I need to say that the time works against us. 11 months of fighting can create problems, issues with the reserves, with the active duties, and this is an issue which we need to take care of. The numbers of the reservists that are still pull up and coming to take whatever needed is still very high. And yet, we need to face some social issues among those reservists, because again, 11 months, it's a very long time. Number 2, there are some lack of ammunition. We've got a lot from United States, but it's not enough. We need more. And the lack of ammunition create operational gaps when instead of using the best we can, we use what we have. And sometimes it's not good enough. I'll give you an example. I'm an infantry and special forces guy, but the armor people will tell you that if the tank commander used the wrong shell, the results will be less than he needed. If he used a shell, anti-tank shell, against a building, the round will penetrate the house very easily, but the damage inside the room will be very small. You need a different shell, you need a different round, and sometimes if you don't have it and you use what you have, the results are less effective, and this is an issue. Number three, I believe that what happened, let's say in the last 10 days, especially the assassination of the 6 Israeli hostages, was kind of a new message by Hamas to us. Stop maneuvering under the ground. The underground maneuver by us was something that Hamas couldn't deal with. The results were very effective, and that was, let's say, the last place which Hamas could hide from the Israeli maneuvers in the area of Gaza. Killing those 6 hostages was in order to tell us, whenever we see you coming close enough, we will assassinate them. We will kill them. And it's not kind of a propaganda, it's a pure operational message. Stop maneuvering under the ground. It is create a huge dilemma for us, because we don't want the hostages to be killed by the terrorists. But at the same time, we cannot leave the underground dimension without effective response. And last but not least, we need to put on the table the fact that Iran, after April 14th, in a way, study a lot about the overall coalition air defense systems Israel and other players are using against them. And we need to look into April 14 as kind of Iranian experiment against us. And they study a lot from that experiment. And the next time will be probably more difficult for all the coalition forces when we want to defend the state of Israel and prevent those type of attacks. So if I'm collecting all those topics, the challenges are ahead of us. Judah and Samaria, very active, very, very active. The Iranians are trying to split our forces. They know that we are busy in Gaza. They know that we are preparing to take actions in Lebanon. And in order to delay the Israeli ability to fight at the same time in 3 fronts, they actually push many cells in Judah and Samaria to take actions in the last few days by car bomb, by snipers, by booby traps. And we had to launch few operations in Judah and Samaria. We start in the north, and I believe that very soon you will see more operation up in the south of Judah and Samaria, the area of Hebron and places like that, because as I said, the Iranians are trying to push them to make sure that we will not be able to deal with all those 3 ground fronts at the same time.
In terms of the challenges, as you said, there's a limited amount of manpower. The reservists are tired. It's affecting the economy, affecting their jobs, their businesses. Can you shed any positive light on this?
Yeah, I believe that when the reservist sees the actual threats that are coming, they do hesitate when they believe that there are too many political reasons behind the operational decisions. And this is something that we have to be very, very careful about. Make sure that everything is on the table and people understand that we are taking pure and clean decisions when it comes into using the units in order to achieve the goals.
Could you share with us the challenges that Jordan is facing in terms of Iran trying to create instability, overthrow the king, what Iranian-funded forces are doing in Jordan, how those weapons are coming across the border, and then the challenges that's creating for us in Judea and Samaria? Could you elaborate upon that?
Yes, sir. For many years, I'm about to share with you that upon the Iranian concept, Jordan is next on line. Historically, Iran controlled Lebanon, then Syria, then Iraq. They control part of Yemen by the Houthis. And from the Iranian point of view, Jordan is next on line because they consider the king weak enough, and they see that the overall situation in Jordan is easy to create the chaos they need in order to sneak in. From the Israeli perspective, having Iranian forces along the longest Israeli-Jordanian border is unacceptable. But the Iranians are taking the advantages of the weaknesses of Jordan, using the fact that Jordan hosts more than 1 million refugees as a result from the war between the civil war in Syria and the war in Iraq. And they, using the open borders they have, a large desert, in order to sneak in fighters, money, ammunition, and from there to push it toward the Israeli border to Judah and Samaria. This is a very long border that along the years, the concept was that we can rely on the Jordanian battalions, which were very loyal to the king and did a very good job, and the cooperation were very, very successful. But under those efforts by the Iranians, even the Jordanian battalions are not effective enough to block that border. So from our perspective, we add more troops into that borderline. We're about to establish a new division that will take responsibility for that borderline. Today, it's part of the Judah and Samaria division mission. And as we all see, they are very busy inside Judah and Samaria. So you need a different commander, a different headquarters that will take care of that long borderline. So the threat is there. Unfortunately, the Jordanian battalions are not effective enough. They are trying. The cooperation is very good. And yet, because of those overall efforts, we need to defend 100% of the time. They need to succeed only once. And they succeed from time to time. And we are very much concerned that they will be able to bring into the area of Judah and Samaria new weapon systems, such as anti-tank missiles, such as manpads for against helicopters, and things like that. So we take all those necessary actions to make sure that A, the borderline will be as close as we can, and B, to run after those cells inside Judah and Samaria almost every day.
This is a bit of a sensitive question that I'm going to ask. Many people say that on the one hand, you've got America providing the arms and it enables Israel to fight against the 9 proxies that Iran has created this ring of fire around Israel with. On the other hand, you have a situation where because America, the government, not the military, but because the political echelon has slowed down the flow of supplies of weapons, as you've articulated, it's really hurt Israel. And as well, you hear people saying that, look, strategically and practically, we should have been in Rafah in December. January at the latest, and it was because of American pressure that slowed us down. From where you sit, from where your perspective, and those same people argue that had we been in Rafah in December and January, the war would be over at this point. It would be cleaning up terrorists, but we'd be 4 or 5 months ahead of where we are. The reservists would be back in university, they'd be back in their workplace. I'm not here as an expert to say that is correct or incorrect. I'm asking you as a general who's dealt with the American forces, who's partnered with America, your perception of what America has done to handicap Israel, and what America has done to support Israel, to help Israel over the course of the last months, and how you perceive it.
Let's split it into at least 2 different aspects. I'm not so sure that we didn't enter Rafah because of the US pressure. I believe that the answer is inside the Israeli political reasons. You know, I'm not a politician, I'm trying to avoid politics, but we didn't enter Rafah earlier because Israeli decisions. It was not because any pressure from outside or lack of ammunition. The second part of your question goes into the fact that General Kurila, CENTCOM commander, has direct responsibility for the safety of the state of Israel. This is one of his missions. Therefore, he visited us many times. And I feel very, very comfortable that under his command, Israel get everything needed by him and by his command in order to win the war. The slowdown of the US ammunition to Israel probably affected the ability to take decision to launch a large preemptive attack against Hezbollah. This is the connection I can make between the slowdown of mainly air bomb ammunition delayed to the state of Israel versus the decision we took. We had enough ammunition to fight in Gaza. And the reason we didn't make it, let's say, faster, related to political reasons, not operational reasons.
So, General Nuriel, what you're saying is that really even the slowdown of armaments did not impact, number one, Gaza. Number two is American pressure, which we heard publicly from the administration not to go into Rafah. You're saying in the end, that was not the sole determining factor in terms of not going into Rafah earlier. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I can add another layer of complexity into the overall picture is that by the beginning of the war, we came to the cabinet with the suggestions to start in Rafah, to start in the Philadelphia corridor, and they rejected. Somehow, and I believe that they have their own reasons, we didn't start with the Philadelphia corridor, which logically should be the first place to start with. If you're really concerned from smuggling the hostages through those tunnels to Egypt and from Egypt to Yemen or to Iran, you have to block it in the beginning. And we didn't. We reached that area somewhere around May. The war started by the end of October. And I'm saying that there are some political reasons behind that. I don't want to open it too much because, as I said, I'm not a politician. The US pressure play strong role by Sinwar and Hezbollah understanding that Israel will not go harder than we did till now. Nasrallah realized that Israel will not be able to launch a large preemptive attack in order to change the situation up in the north from the beginning because of the United States pressure. And this is the truth. We had lack of ammunition, and we gave Hochstein the time to look for kind of an agreement, which I don't believe anyone will be able to reach. And therefore, a large military campaign in Lebanon, including ground maneuver, is behind the corner.
Could you elaborate when you say it's behind the corner?
Yeah, I'm not going to say nothing about specific timing, but the Israeli citizens who left that area will not come back unless we will have a ground maneuver that may push Hezbollah behind the Litani River. Without that, they will not come back. The overall situation up in the north is very, very problematic. So there are two scenarios, generally speaking. The first one is that we will take the initiative, and by the right timing, we will launch a preemptive attack and then start the ground maneuver. Or we will need to respond to something that Hezbollah may do. If you take the event that took place in Majd al-Shams, when 12 kids had been murdered by Hezbollah, if something like that happened again and again, we will not have any choice beside launching a ground maneuver. We are fully prepared. We finish all the preparations. We have, let's say, enough ammunition at that stage for the beginning, and we shall see.
I want to end off on something which is a positive note, and that's something that you've created over your professional life as an Israeli general, and that is the incredible relationship between the American military and the Israeli military, working together, what used to be in the European Command, now working with General Kurilla in the Central Command. You've gone from working with the 6th Fleet in the Mediterranean to working with the 5th Fleet in the Arabian Sea. Share with us a little bit about both is using the example of April 14th, using the example of a couple of weeks ago, the incredible relationship, the coordination, and I would even say the friendship between the American military and the Israeli military.
I can put on the table two big part of it. Number one is the physical cooperation between the players. If you take April 14th, you can close your eyes and see our child, Herzi Halevi, sits in Tel Aviv. Someone from CENTCOM sit next to him. General Kurilla sits in his headquarters. They are on the same command and control system. They have an open line, and together they are managing the salvos coming from Iran. United States provide their assets, and others, such as Germany, England, French, Egypt, and so far and so on. And we have what we have, and together we present the other side that the overall coalition forces can be able to deal with that type of threat. From the other side, I need to say that the power projector steps by the Americans are playing a very strong role. When you have carriers, when you have B-52, when you have F-22 flying in this region. This is a very strong message. If you add into it some other messages, you can build up a level of deterrence. Is this enough? The answer is no. The answer is no. I was a bit surprised that after very dramatic US don't, the Iranian did what they did. I can understand them because they need to, as I said, to create an experiment. And yet they did it, even though they knew that America and other states are behind us. That shows you something about how far they are willing to walk. I'm an optimist that the cooperation between us and CENTCOM, the cooperation with us, with the rest of the coalition forces that CENTCOM bring into the table will be stronger than the overall Iranian aggressiveness.
Thank you. And thank you for being a very integral part in creating that relationship over the years. On behalf of all of us, it's just always a pleasure. I don't want to say a pleasure because it's never pleasurable, but I will say this, the education we get, the thoughtfulness we get, the analysis we get from you. In that sense, we're very, very grateful. And you've always been a friend of our community. And you've always been a guide to our community. And I want to thank you. Thank you for always being there, General Nuriel.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for everything you are doing for us. It's not for granted. It's very important. And I'm very, very, very admire you, your leadership, and everything actually you are doing for the Israeli Defense Forces. Thank you very much and take care.
Thank you. In terms of that very topic that the General brought up, just want to share with everyone that we mentioned this over the last couple of weeks. We have a need for 1,000 scholarships, 1,000 scholarships for soldiers who have fought in this war, those who are finishing their tour of duty, those who have been reservists. And I want to thank you for your outpouring. So far, we've raised 450 of the 1,000 scholarships. If anyone would have an interest in providing, it's a scholarship money in terms of the tuition. It covers part of their living expenses, but it will enable a soldier who is either from a family that's in poverty or a family that is low middle class. It will enable that soldier to be able to come out of university debt-free. The soldier's obligation as a student is a B average. Their obligation as a student is to give 130 hours a year of communal service. They can pick one of 15 charities that they can pick from. And we in turn, meaning the FIDF community, will provide for them. It'll be the first time for many of them in the history of the family that anyone's gone to university. And keep in mind, Israel has a European university model. When you come out of university in Israel, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're an engineer, you're a computer programmer. We're looking for 550 other scholarships, more scholarships. Please feel free. Steve.Weil, Steve.Weil at FIDF.org. Steve.Weil at FIDF.org. And as well, one of the things that we are looking to do right now, we're funding retreats by the week for the bereaved families of what's happened. The 720 soldiers, many of them have produced tragically widows and orphans, 200 widows, 500 orphans. Many families have buried a son. We have now 1,450 younger siblings of those who have lost an older brother. So we're doing a number of retreats. Over the summer, we funded summer programming for all of those young, I should say the 1,450 younger siblings and the 200 orphans. Right now, it's family retreats. There are therapists there, therapists working. The ultimate goal is that they create a community, a network amongst themselves, because we can all sympathize, but no one can know what they're really going through. The only one that can know what they're going through is someone going through it themselves. And that was why we did the programming that we discussed a few weeks ago with Michal Hershkovitz here in the States. in terms of the legacy camps, but it's going on every week of the year. It's taking place as we speak in what we call micro-demographic groups. Young widows in their 20s and 30s, Druze families who've buried a son, who've buried a brother. Very micro-demographic groups that the goal of these retreats with the therapy is ultimately that they can create a network of support amongst themselves. They will create friends for life, support for life. And we've committed now $26 million to programs for bereaved families. We've committed $89.5 million to PTSD. And this program, the university program, which we're being asked to fund, that's a $20 million commitment. But everyone can adopt one soldier. It's $5,000 a year for 4 years. $5,000 a year for 4 years. And you will have a relationship with that soldier. Part of the program is that the student, the former soldier who's a student, writes 2 letters a year, minimally. I can tell you as a donor of a couple of students, I have the blessing of WhatsApping them each and every week. And it's been incredibly fulfilling in the life of myself, my wife, and our children. If you want to help, if you'd be so gracious to help, we would be very, very appreciative. The needs are great. Merubim tzarchei amcha, as they say in Hebrew. We thank you for your support. We thank you for your financial support. And we thank you for being there when the Jewish world is in a terrible, terrible state of crisis. And as the general described, 9 Iranian proxies are working simultaneously. They're working simultaneously to try to undermine the most moral, ethical army in the history of humanity, not just on the face of the earth, but in the history of humanity, and to undermine an incredibly precious, precious gift, pearl to humanity, and that is the people of Israel, the state of Israel. And we thank you for your support.